Remember that clip of Charles Wesley Godwin telling the West Virginia football team a couple of years ago, they must have forgotten who you are? Well, that applies here today with West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez. Another coaching ranking list came out disrespecting Rich Rodriguez once again. We're going to dive into it here today on Between The Eers. What's up, everybody? Skylar Callahan here with another episode of Between the Eers. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button here at our YouTube channel at West Virginia on SI. Greatly appreciate all of the support throughout the offseason, and especially now as we get ready to roll here as fall camp begins this upcoming week. And just a reminder that we will have episodes of Between the Eers every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday throughout the football season. The Walkthrough Game Day show will drop every Thursday, previewing that week's matchup with former Mountaineer running back Eugene Napoleon, and he will also join me on the Mountaineer postgame show, which will drop immediately after the game ends, and we'll have a little recap of what happens there and some initial thoughts. So, with all that being said, we won't quite get into the fall camp stuff yet. We're going to save that for later on this week, and I usually don't go around and do these episodes where we're talking about what other people's opinions are and all that stuff because, quite frankly, I mean, we already write about it on the website, and usually once I do that, I'm like, yeah, it's whatever. I don't feel like we need to double down on it. But there's some things out there that are probably worthy or deserving of doubling down on, and this is one of them. Rich Rodriguez was ranked 12th in the Big 12 power rankings of head coaches by Shahan Jeharaja of CBS Sports. I'm just going to let that sit for just a second. He was ranked 12th in the Big 12. There are 16 coaches in this league. Rich Rodriguez is ranked 12th. I could end the episode right there, and I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, this is wrong, and you shouldn't pay any attention to it, and I get that. But look, when you look at some of these coaches that Jeharaja has in front of Rich Rod, some of them I get, like Chris Kleiman. Like, in my personal opinion, Chris Kleiman is a great head coach. He's doing great things at Kansas State. He's got them in the right direction. I can't think any higher of Chris Kleiman. But what has he accomplished that Rich Rod hasn't? I don't know. I think those two are pretty I think they should be in the same ballpark. And I wouldn't mind if people had Kleiman ahead of Rich Rod. I wouldn't mind if people had, Matt Campbell, certainly Mike Gundy. But when we get to and Kyle Whittingham at Utah, but when we get to some of these other guys, Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, yeah, he won the Big 12 last year, got to the college football playoff. It's also very early in his tenure. So are we already just projecting that Kenny Dillingham is going to be a sustainable winner out there in Tempe? I mean, he could be, but I'm not one on projections. I'm usually the person that I bank on the data, what the history tells me, and that's that Rich Rod has won at virtually everywhere he's been. I'll get to the Michigan thing here in a second. Kalani Sitake at BYU, he's done pretty good there. I think has kind taken that program to the next step, especially transitioning from an independent to the Big 12 has done a pretty fine job. You could make an argument there. Again, I still think Rich Rodriguez has accomplished more. Now, well, before I get to the eyebrow raisers or however you want to classify them, Sonny Dykes, that's one I have a really hard time with because he went to the national championship in his first year at TCU. They took a step back. They got a little bit back on track. So, and to me, he's had kind of an up and down coaching career. It didn't work out at Cal, but he did fairly well at SMU. He's done, I would say, above average at TCU. I think there could be, again, you could put them in the same ballpark and I'd be fine with it. The ones I have the biggest issues with, ready for this? Deion Sanders at Colorado, Willie Fritz at Houston, and Dave Aranda at Baylor. Those three coaches, I'm sorry, I can't get there with them. I cannot put either or any one of those three coaches ahead of Rich Rodriguez. I just can't. Starting with Dave Aranda, because of the three, he's probably the most proven at this level. And by this level, I mean the Big 12, Power Four football. I mean, this is a guy that early on last season was still on the hot seat. They didn't know if he was going to be in Waco. And some thought that he should have lost his job following the previous season. And I'm glad for him and for Baylor that they stuck it out because I believe Dave Aranda. I really, really do. So this is going to kind of come off as a slight or a knock at Dave Aranda. It's not that at all. I believe Dave Aranda is a really good football coach. He just needed time. And when they kind of had to rebuild after that Big 12 championship, they kind of missed on some things. They didn't have some things in place for the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff. They're getting back on track, and I think they're potentially the best team in the Big 12 this year, at least on paper. So I think it was the right decision to bring Aranda back for 2024. And I was saying that at the time that, I don't know that they ever said, hey, we're bringing it back. Like it was just kind of assumed at that point. But I do think there's still little ways to go for Dave to pass Rich Rod or to be sitting ahead of Rich Rod on these types of lists because, yes, although he's won a Big 12 championship, that's the one and only season that he has, you know, some credibility to. There's a lot of, question marks about whether or not he can be a long-term winner at Baylor or a long-term winner at the Power Four levels. So we'll see with him. I think that's the one I have the least gripe with. But Coach Prime, I mean, I love him. I love Coach Prime. I mean, in terms of a personality, in terms of a coach, I know he can rub some people the wrong way. For me, I think he's the perfect type of coach for today's athlete. He's able to relate to them, but at the same time, he's going to hold people accountable, and he's going to let people know, hey, this isn't going to fly. He's old school. He may seem more like a new school hip coach, but he's old school down to his core. And I think that is probably what's going to make him, or not make him, but allow him to be a successful coach long term. But after these first two seasons at the FBS level, I mean, with all due respect, I mean, what he did at Jackson State, down there at the HBCU level is phenomenal. But it's not the greatest of competition. You go to Colorado, horrible first year. They turn it around last year. They win 9 games. Okay, but one winning season at the FBS level, and that's enough at Colorado, where they didn't even win 10 games. That's more than what Rich Rod has accomplished. Come on, man. Like, and I know this is kind of a combination of, what they've done and where they're headed and where their programs are at. I get all that stuff. But at the end of the day, again, I'm going on what the data tells me. And right now, there's just not enough there to say that Deion should be ahead of Rich Rod. Could we say that in a few years? Maybe. Right now, absolutely not. And then with Willie Fritz, again, another coach, and I sound like a broken record here, and you're probably thinking, well, is there a coach out there you don't respect? There are a few. But Willie Fritz at Houston, I really believe he's the right guy for that job. I know he's a little bit older, so is he going to be somebody that sticks around in coaching for another 10 years? I don't know. I don't know how long he plans on going, but everywhere he's been at every level, he's turned things around. He's got them on track. It may have taken him a little bit longer at some places, but he finally was able to do it. And that's kind of a similar setup here at Houston. They're still trying to figure out their depth at the Big 12 level. It's a much different beast than it was in the American. West Virginia learned this over a decade ago when they came from the Big East. There's a transition period. For Houston, fortunately, they have some money and they also have the state of Texas to recruit to. They're not going to get the top kids in the state. Those are all going to go to the Texases and Texas Tech's, Baylor's, and even you're going to lose some to Oklahoma and TCU and so on and so forth. But there's still kids there that are going to get looked over and that are very talented. So I believe Houston is set to take some steps forward. I just think it's going to be a few years from now before they actually do. And when you look at what Willie Fritz has done at Georgia Southern, what he did at Tulane in his first year at Houston, again, it it's just not there. It's not enough to put him above Rich Rodriguez. Rich Rodriguez had West Virginia on the doorstep of a national championship game. I don't care that it was 2007. I don't care. It was the best 3-year stretch in West Virginia football history. He goes to Michigan. 3-year stint there did not go well. But you look, there was incremental success that was happening. They were building towards something. What they were building toward was the year after he left, Brady Hoke comes in with his recruits, his players. They were ready to turn the corner, and they sure did. They won double-digit games that year with Brady Hoke. Are you telling me it's just because Brady Hoke's the head coach? I don't think so. I think if Rich Rod stayed for that 4th year, probably have the same results. Maybe better. I don't know. At worst, you have the same results. Goes to Arizona, has a decent amount of success at Arizona. Didn't do anything crazy, but it's Arizona. They haven't done a whole lot in a long time. He took them to places they haven't been in a long time and was pretty consistent out there. So hats off to him at Arizona. Goes to Jacksonville State. Takes that program. Now I know it missed some coordinator and position coach stints in there, but head coaching we're talking about here. Goes to Jack State, takes them from FCS to FBS, and by year 2 has them winning the conference in Conference USA. Year 2. Willie Fritz took him, 7, 8 years to win a conference title at Tulane? I mean, come on, man. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's I don't it's not me saying that Rich Rod's a top 3 coach in this league or he's the best coach in the Big 12. I'm just trying to understand the math behind all of this. Willie Fritz, again, great coach, has not done anything near what Rich Rodriguez has done in his career. Not anything near it. Not at this level. So to me, I just don't understand how you could put any of those 3 coaches specifically ahead of Rich Rodriguez. Again, Sanders, 13-12 in 2 years at Colorado. Dave Aranda, 31-30. He's barely floating above 500, and that's with a season where he won the Big 12. Willie Fritz, 75-62. That's a 54. That's a .547 winning percentage. Doesn't sniff Rich Rodriguez. Sorry, folks. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to put this any more clear. This list is just wrong. Flat out wrong. Rich Rod is at worst a middle of the pack coach in this league. At worst. And we can discuss all day long about how, Rich Rod hasn't had the national success since 2007. Okay. Show me where Willie Fritz's national success is. Show me Deion Sanders. Heck, even show me Lance Leipold, Chris Kleiman. I could do this all day. Rich Rodriguez has to be higher than 12th. Has to be. All right. I'm going to step off my soapbox for today. I'm going to take a breather for the next 24-ish hours or so, and we'll reconvene on Tuesday for the next episode of Between the Eers. That'll be the eve, I believe, of WVU Fall Camp, which is start to set up this week. So we're getting close, folks. Hang in there. We're going to have a lot of content coming your way, especially throughout the month of August as we learn some more about this team. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube channel at West Virginia on SI. You don't want to miss anything. We'll have it all here for you on Between the Eers.